know that's backwards, and I lack words for these actors called pastors. All these folks is hypocrites, and that's why I ain't at church. Truthfully, I'm just doing me, and I don't want to face no scrutiny. As long as the church keep wilding out, I can justify all my foolish deeds. Smoking weed, pulling up, keep that lean up in my cup. Maybe I could change the world, but this porn on my laptop got me stuck. Yeah, I know what's right from wrong, but that there ain't gonna sell a song. I'd rather sell my soul than save it, if that's what make my money long. It better not be no real God, but real hope that heals hearts and shows me that I ain't living up to all the things that he put me here for. It better not be no real church, real saints who pray hard and let me rock my snapback with the 501s in the J zone. It better not be no real folk who don't think that they better than you. Straight or gay, drunk or high, they walk through the cold weather with you. Now we don't want to see that, cause that might mean life change. That might mean I'm worth more than money, car, sex, and pipe trains. Better not be no real Jesus, real forgiveness for hurt folks. If God gon' take me as I am, I guess I already got on my church clothes.
Hey, look. Hey, look.
morning and welcome to our Teens Show today. You are very welcome to join us. We are happy that you have joined us. It's a very cold morning and I trust that you are in thick socks and a warm blanket curled up somewhere in your sitting room, in your couch watching us this morning. I hope you've had a great week and you have joined us today to hear what we have in store for you as a teenager today. Well, for the past 3 weeks, let me do a short summary of what we have done for the past 3 weeks. We have talked about the Bible vastly for the past 3 weeks. And our idea was to defeat this question. You know, one of you, our teenagers, asked us, is the Bible just a set of boring rules and regulations, you know, with a carrot at the end or a stick at the end? If you happen to live well, then you will receive, you know, heaven, good things at the end. And if you do not live by those rules, then you will receive hell at the end. And so we took on a journey to talk about what the Bible is. And the summary of all of that was that the Bible is one story, one long story written over many, many years by different writers who have been inspired by the Holy Spirit. And these writers were, you know, it was one story about God coming into the world to redeem the world to himself, to bring us back to himself. And it has been written in different forms and in different ways by different writers. You know, we talked about the poems and the letters and the history books, the narratives, the poetry, the prophecies, you know, and different, you know, ways that the writers have written the Bible and how you can interpret them, how you can respond to them, how you can relate with them. And if you haven't watched those, the different shows that we've had, you're very welcome to scroll through our YouTube channel and see what we have done in the past few weeks. Now, today, we want to change gears. We have finished talking about the Bible, and today we asked the question. We thought, you know, we want to address this question. What is the gospel? Have you heard of that word before, the gospel? If you have, probably someone has told you that the gospel is good news. Good news. And maybe you've wondered, good news about what? For who? And they have told you it is for you. But you haven't, I'm sure even right now I have said that the gospel is good news. But you're seated there thinking, tell me more. And the idea is, you know, when someone says, I have good news for you, ideally your heart is supposed to jump, right? You're supposed to think about it. If someone texts you today and says, Jonte, I have good news for you. You're supposed to be thinking, niambie, nini, what is good? I want to know what that is that you have, you have heard about me or that you have for me. But I'm sure maybe you're just seated there thinking, good news about what? How come our hearts don't exactly respond in joy and excitement when we hear that the gospel is good news? And we want to address that. Why is it that our hearts don't exactly respond with joy like that? Think about it this way. Think about when you received your KCPE results or your KCAC results. And you had worked hard and there are schools you wanted to go to, for example, if it was KCPE, and you had planned to go, you had applied to Alliance or to Precious Blood or to Starehe, and then you got your results and you had scored 420 marks and you knew, my God, hata wakitafuta aje, there is no way they will not take me to Alliance. This one I have hacked. I am going to Alliance. You remember how you felt? And you remember how you woke up the next morning and still how you were feeling at that time? And how you woke up the next week and every time you remembered how you had scored 420 marks, you were still looking forward to that Alliance or that Starehe. You remember that? Or remember your KCAC, maybe. You are an ex-candidate. You did your KCAC and you sat and you waited because your heart was set on the University of Nairobi. You want to do medicine or engineering, nothing less at the University of Nairobi. And then you received your results and you had a straight A. Even in this Matiang'i period, you scored a straight A. And so you knew, hata nikiambiwa ningoje, hata hii COVID ikikaa for sijui how long, me I know where I am going. I am going to the University of Nairobi to do this particular course. And you remember how your heart felt? Because those were good news for you. You received your results and they were good news for you. And it wasn't just a feeling that you had temporarily for a minute. You still had the good feeling the next day and the next month. And you just sit around knowing my life is sorted. So when we say that the gospel is good news, we want your heart to react the way your heart reacted when you received those good news before. but probably it doesn't yet. And maybe that's because you haven't yet been, been explained for why it is good news, for who, about who, how does it affect me. So this is the series we're taking on now. But before we go to why it is good news, we want to do a shock therapy for you. Today in Big Church, Reverend Lovie was talking about shock therapy, telling people the hard things before you tell them the good things. And we want to start with telling you what the bad news is. You must know what the bad news is for you to know why the gospel is actually good news for you. Okay? So today we'll talk about why there are bad news, how these bad news are bad for you, therefore how you can be prepared and how you can rejoice when we tell you there are good news for you. So come outside with me, come. Let's go to Reverend Jasmine, Pastor Devi and Pastor Madenge. Let's hear what the bad news first is, and then later we'll talk about what the good news are, okay? Karibu.
Hello, hello, hi guys, welcome again to this week's show. As usual, we are very excited to be doing this together. Yeah. Excellent. And so, I thought about something. I think it's important for you to get to know your pastors. And so, yes. Wacha tuwaanike leo. Our topic for today, by the way, is we are trying to answer the question, what is the gospel? And we will start by trying to understand bad news before the good news.
All right.
But before we go into that topic, I said it would be really, really good to get to know our pastors. And so, here's something. They'll say their name and one naughty thing that they did when they were in high school.
God.
One naughty thing that they did when they were in high school. So, we'll start over here. Pastor Devi, let us know.
Actually, the browsing is excellent.
I think I'm opening my scroll.
You have a full scroll to say.
Full scroll.
Bring it.
My name is David Nyoike, my high school, and I'm really proud of my high school. We had the best uniform, by the way.
Kiambu County.
Everyone says that about the high
Undisputed.
school.
Everyone thinks that about their school.
I was in Kiambu High School.
Oh, okay.
Kiambu High School.
Catches. Tulikuwa tunajulikana. So, one naughty thing that I did. So I was a cop. Yeah, I was a cop.
Snitches, they are called snitches.
The killjoys of high school life. But the most interesting that I did was beating up a Form 2 student. Alikata kwenda kupanga seats for CU.
Oh my goodness!
You are supposed the work of the Lord. Hello, ulifanya kafiri. Hey, okay, sawa.
Lakini kuongea ukweli, imagine we had dogs in the house until Adamawa. I'm walking only to find a Form 2 student sleeping. Mimi niliamka sijui 6:30 huko kupanga.
Uliamua the best way ni kuchapa. school.
Warudishia.
Okay.
Akaturudishia. So one day we are all gathered together. You know how in high school
Yeah.
you're enjoying looking at people's picture.
Yeah.
So we are all gathered looking at those pictures, and then the principal came in without us
Na
seeing.
ako like hizi photos mmepiga hapa kwa
Acha
shule.
nikwambie,
Na nimetoa.
our school was strict. It was a Catholic school. It is a Catholic
Wait,
school.
which
It
school
was
is this?
it was strict.
We just
It
saw
was-
it.
Yeah.
Wacha nimalize story.
okay.
It was strict. So what happened? I was given the punishment of to go niende nikalime. Acha niwaambie watu.
Ulikuwa unapalilia nini? Tuanze hapo.
Hata sitawaambia even what happened later
Vitunguu.
after that, but that was the punishment of kwenda kulima ground iko na grass. It's hard. That was my punishment
Oh
for the
my
whole
God.
day. So anyway, I don't miss those days. So anyways, that's us. But thank God because of the good news.
Tumekombolewa bana.
Tumekombolewa. Now we
Tumekombolewa.
know him. Yeah, and so I'm thinking that we could probably head right into
Yeah.
our question for the day, and that is trying to define. When you come to the question of the gospel, I think the best way to start is understanding with the background of the bad news that happened first,
Yeah.
right? Bad news that happened so that we get into the good news.
Yeah.
And so I'm wondering, what is this bad news?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, what happened? What changed? Where
Yeah.
did we start? And all that.
I think one of the unique things about the gospel is that the good news
Yeah.
are precipitated by the bad news. I think the bad news, to understand where it began, you have to go all the way back to creation. That's where it began. So creation, God creates man. Man and woman, he created them. So I say, put them in the garden. He is fellowshipping with them. Tunaona come to the garden and I will say, hey, during the cool of the day, fellowship now, I say, and you would imagine that there's a beautiful fellowship happening
Yeah.
between them here.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and that is what God had created man to be
Yeah.
in relation to him.
Yeah.
So I think the bad news began in the Garden of Eden. God has created man to fellowship with him, but somehow the events of the garden lead to a place where we see that being that separation coming. So God has created man in his own image, in his own likeness, the epitome of creation.
Yeah.
He wants to fellowship with him. He desires that he would glorify him. He has provided everything he needs, food and everything.
Yeah.
And then
yeah.
I think man, just being man, made a wrong decision at one point,
Yeah.
and that costed him much.
Yeah. And the wrong decision came up when we find the breaking news. Pale
Yeah.
Chapter 3.
Pale, breaking news.
Yeah, and we see
Yeah.
Satan
Yeah.
displaying himself as a serpent and approaching Eve
Yeah.
and telling Eve, did God really say?
Yeah.
God alisema kweli.
Yani,
Yeah.
ebu jaribu ukae chini, just bring yourself into did
Yeah.
God really say
Yeah.
that you are not supposed to eat
Yeah.
from the tree that is in the middle of the garden?
Yeah.
Planting seeds of doubt
Yeah,
and
of doubt
questioning
and
what God has
questioning.
put in place. Yeah.
And again, it's not that Eve didn't know. Because the next thing we see that we see Eve actually stating what God had told them. God had told them that they are not supposed to
Yeah.
touch or eat from the tree that is in the middle of the garden.
Yeah.
Why? Because
So
if they
the,
do
the,
so,
the instructions were clear.
they were clear. And if they do so, what would happen?
They will
They
surely
would
die.
surely die.
They surely die.
But again,
Yeah.
we see the devil giving a different proponent, giving an option B. He's saying that God didn't say that. Yani, really, God didn't say that.
Yeah.
Actually, God knows that
Yeah.
if you go and eat of that fruit, three things are going to happen. First of all, you won't die. Secondly,
Yani
Which-
amecounter kile
which-
God
so-
alisema.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which we'll see is a lie, right?
it's
Or
actually a
was
lie.
it true? Yeah.
it wasn't true. We'll actually see it was a lie. But first,
Yeah.
you won't die.
Mm.
Secondly, you have a certain knowledge. You'll actually have the knowledge of good and evil. And thirdly, you will become like God.
Yep.
Wow.
Like false promises.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
you'll actually
zile
become
za-
like
yeah.
God.
Yeah. And I see that when he's saying you become like God,
Yeah.
it's like trying to say the way you are, you're not perfect. You're not
yeah.
enough in and
Yeah.
of yourself. So eat this fruit and then you be like him,
Yeah.
creator of the universe.
Yeah.
And that's very enticing, right?
It is.
Yeah.
It
And
is.
I'm wondering kwa nini Eve hakusema qualify this information. As in, you just can't come and make
Yeah.
claims
Yeah.
that I will be like God, I will
Yeah.
know good and evil. What evidence are you presenting Satan
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
that actually I'll do
Interesting.
these
Yeah.
things? Yeah.
Yeah.
But the interesting bit is that you see, God had given and provided all that man needed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in the garden.
I mean,
There's
there was so much
nothing-
freedom.
Yeah.
I
There
know.
were many trees
I know.
that Adam and Eve could have
yeah.
enjoyed.
Yeah.
But we see
yeah.
Eve falling for this bait and
Yeah.
falling for this,
Mhm.
this.
Bait is actually a
Yeah,
good
yeah.
word. It's
Yeah,
a
it
bait
is
that
actually
Satan
bait,
put
yeah.
out there.
And
Mhm.
actually believing that whatever God told them by then was not good enough. There is something more. And again,
Yeah.
she goes ahead and takes the fruit.
Yeah.
And then
Just
she also gives it to
Mm.
Adam.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
there we see, boom, they have rebelled against God. They commit cosmic treason against God.
yeah.
And then we see a snowballing effect of
Effect on that, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking it's sad because if you think about the description of the Garden of Eden
Yeah.
that we are given, I don't know whether you guys were a fan of these storybooks of the Bible that would have, but it would be a picture of Adam or Eve, you know, hanging out with
Yeah.
animals.
Lions.
One of them, my favorite one was Eve was leaning on a lion, you know. They
Yeah,
were
that
friends. They used to
Kimeni.
have this
Yeah,
perfect
that Kimeni.
relationship. And I love fruits. And
Yeah.
the Garden of Eden is described to have these various trees, you
Yes.
know, every kind, the sweetest of the mangoes,
Yes.
probably the sweetest of avocados. What avocado?
Mango,
They used to
mango,
be the
little joys of life.
the little joys of life.
Yes.
But then the devil comes and plants those seeds of doubt and questioning God. And Adam and Eve, you know, heads into the trajectory
Yeah.
of seeing,
Yeah.
by the way, Amma, there is actually a better deal
Yeah.
for me
Yeah.
out there.
Yeah.
But like Devi has said, one of the things that happened to them is immediately sin settled in.
Yeah.
Immediately Adam and Eve disobeyed God. They were banished from the
From
the
the
garden,
garden.
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
this perfect environment.
Yes.
You know, the Bible says, I think, the Bible says in between chapter 1 to chapter 3 of Genesis, that God will come in the cool of the day.
Cool
And
of
they
the
will be,
day.
yani,
Masaa sita hivi
siesta
wakati
perfect,
lunch.
you know.
Yeah.
He'll come and hang out with them.
Yeah.
And imagine that beautiful relationship, that
Broken.
beautiful relationship that they had has been broken.
Yeah.
They are now chased away from them,
Yeah.
from the garden.
Yeah.
The other thing we see is they are aware of shame. Shame settles in
Yes.
of them.
Yeah.
Because one of the things happened
All
when
of a sudden, nakedness.
they are
must,
aware of
feature
their
beauty.
nakedness. By the way, guys, if you didn't know, we wear clothes right
Because of
now
sin.
because of sin.
Hii budget ya
Otherwise,
nguo, hii budget ya nguo hatujawahi
Otherwise,
kuwa.
we would
hatungewaikuwa nayo.
Yeah,
Yeah,
imagine.
shame settles in, and then immediately curses God, you know, speaks curses
Yeah.
upon them. And one of them that we see is pain in childbearing.
Yes, for the woman.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
sweat, the Adam, you know, has to
Toil,
sweat
has to
before,
sweat every
as he
day.
toils to enjoy the fruit of the
Yeah.
land. We see death coming.
Yeah, from there henceforth,
see,
the
yani,
body started
You know,
dying.
it's dying and all
Yeah.
that is happening. And it's really sad. All these are happening because of the result of sin
Yeah. But
that we
even
experience.
themselves, I think they start arguing
Oh,
between
yeah.
themselves.
Oh,
The
yeah.
relationship between the
Absolutely.
woman and the man.
And the man
Also
is,
goes,
it's
yeah.
messed up. So
Yeah.
there's a relationship between God and man that is broken.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's a relationship between man and man that is
That is
broken,
broken.
as a result of
Yeah.
sin. And a classic example between man and man is we see the story of Cain and Abel. You know, you know,
Yes.
after Adam and Eve
Yeah.
leaves
Oh
the garden,
my.
they go and have
Yeah.
babies, and their firstborn was Cain, and then there's Abel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then we see, of course, if you read the story, you'll be able to tell Cain was jealous of Abel.
One is
And
jealous
so
of the other.
I know,
God comes
eventually.
and says, hey, niaje,
Sin.
sin is crouching at your door. I think
Yeah.
God was always trying
Yeah.
to stop the effects
Yeah.
of the sin
Yeah,
and
yeah.
the ruined, in
Yeah.
the ruin of sin,
Yeah.
even as early as Cain and Abel.
It is there, and eventually we know that story.
Yeah.
Cain goes and kills Abel,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
again, all these things are happening as a result of sin. Another example that comes to mind is this big story we talk about, the book of Ark.
Yeah.
I mean Noah's
Noah,
Ark.
Noah.
Sorry,
Oh,
Noah's
Noah's Ark,
Ark.
yeah.
We talk about it, but if you read deeply, that came as a result of sin. God was so mad because of the
Yeah,
sin
the guys
that
had sinned against
existed.
him.
Yeah,
they
the
were
sin
not
that
listening.
existed
Yeah.
in the world at that point was so mad at them, he wanted to wipe them out.
Yeah.
So Noah made an invitation, shift delete.
Yes.
You know, if
Yeah.
you're on a computer, shift delete. I want you to get
Control
done
all.
with this, guys.
Anza kwanza na control all, control A, shift delete.
Yani,
Hata kuna kazi ya
I
I
recycling.
know, I know.
Get
Yeah.
out, guys. Get off.
Yeah.
Yeah, so God says, I mean, I'm done with this,
Yeah.
guys. Make an invitation. Those who want, get into the ark.
Yeah.
The rest I will destroy.
And
But
actually,
who are
no one,
people?
no one took that off.
No one took that offer. It's
No
Noah
one
and the
took-
family
Yeah.
and the animals and all that. And we see many people
I'm also thinking about the story of Babel,
getting
for
killed.
example.
Yeah, the Tower of Babel.
Yeah, these guys think they are wiser than God.
Yeah.
The same thing that they wanted to do in the
Yeah.
garden.
Yeah.
If you remember Cain
Yeah.
and Abel,
Yeah.
I mean Adam and Eve,
Yeah.
wanting to
Be like
go
God.
and be like God and
Make
be
a
well.
name for themselves.
Yeah, and God is like, what you guys are always, this thing is futile.
Yeah, yeah.
Your grandfathers
Yeah.
tried this in the garden and it
Yeah.
didn't work.
Yeah.
And then That's where all these tribes came from, actually.
And so many other stories that are talking about the sinfulness that settled in the world. And that is the bad news that we are talking about. And so the conclusion is the greatest bad news that happened when sin settled in is separation from God. A perfect relationship that once existed has been broken because of the sin that happened in the world. And so we will continue with this story. We are very excited about going, and understanding it, going through it, understanding it, seeing is all hope lost? Is
can
God
man come back to
can man come back? It's true.
And actually, as we speak about that, I'm thinking about it. Even the story of Israel, literally, is man trying to make attempts to go back to God. He's given commandments to follow. He's not able to. Even today, we still try to go back to God.
I know. It is true. So, and I think the biggest question after hearing this discussion is it all done?
Will it always
is there
be like
more hope?
this?
Will it always be like this? So stay tuned in. We'll be answering that next week.
See you next week. See you guys.
Masnichos wanakwanga the most disciplined. Wanaenda jo hataki discipline. Hataki discipline in the school. Haya.
Hey, me nilikuwa snitch by the
And I didn't get stitches.
by the way, when snitch. Now we have found something.
I didn't get stitches.
Cha yangu ndio ilikuwa ya kwanza. So tunashanga a whole cop role model. Huko. Tuliambiwa nikalime, nikafaint. But sitaenda kwa hizo details. Sawa.